Grandma, I actually have a leaf above my head, just telling you if you see weird green stuff in the background. Bye. Welcome back to another series of unfortunate events, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. Let's continue where we left off. Hello, 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 Count Olaf said in a wheezy whisper. He was very tall and very thin, dressed in a gray suit that had many dark stains on it. His face was unshaved, and rather than two eyebrows like most human beings have, he had just one long one. His eyes were very, very shiny, which made him look both hungry and angry. Hello, my children. Please step into my new house. Please step into your new home. Wipe your feet outside so you don't get mud indoors. As they stepped into the house, Mr. Poe behind them, the Baudelaire orphans realized that what a ridiculous thing Count Olaf had just said. This room, which they found themselves in, was the dirtiest they had ever seen. A little bit of mud from outdoors wouldn't have made a bit of a difference. Even by the dim light of one bare light bulb that hung from the ceiling, the three children could see that everything in this room was filthy, from the stuffed head of a lion, which was nailed on the wall, to the bowl of apple cores, which sat on a small wooden table. Klaus willed himself not to cry as he looked around. This room looks like it needs a little work, Mr. Poe said, peering around the gloom. I realize that my humble home isn't as fancy as the Baudelaire mansion, Count Olaf said, but perhaps a bit of your money could help me fix it up. Mr. Poe's eyes widened in surprise, and his coughs echoed in the dark room before he spoke. The Baudelaire fortune, he said sternly, will not be used for such matters. In fact, it will not be used until Violet is of age. Count Olaf turned to Mr. Poe with a glint in his eye like an angry dog. For a moment, Violet thought he was going to strike Mr. Poe across the face, but then he swallowed. The children could see the Adam's apple bob in his throat, and shrugged his patchy shoulders. All right, then, he said. It's the same to me. Thank you very much, Mr. Poe, for bringing them here. The children, I will now show you to your room. Goodbye, goodbye, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny, Mr. Poe said, stepping back through the front door. I hope you will be very happy here. I will continue to see you occasionally, and I will always be at the bank if you have any questions. But we don't know where the bank is, Klaus said. I have a map of the city, Count Olaf said. Goodbye, Mr. Poe. He leaned forward to shut the door, and there the Baudelaire orphans were too. Goodbye, Mr. Poe, said Count Olaf. The Baudelaire orphans now wished they could all stay in the Poe household, even though it smelled. Rather than looking at the door, then the orphans looked down, and they saw that although Count Olaf was wearing shoes, he wasn't wearing any socks. They could see in the space of his pale skin between his tattered pants and his black shoe that Count Olaf had an image of an eye tattooed on his ankle, matching the image of the eye on the front door. They wondered how many more eyes there were in Count Olaf's house, and whether for the rest of their lives they would always feel as though Count Olaf were watching them even when he wasn't nearby. And that is the end of today's chapter. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.